All right, moving and grooving.
A fart in the dark.
Hello and welcome back to Fool of a Took. We're here to talk about Chapter 11, A Knife in the Dark. We've officially crossed into the penultimate chapter of Book 1, or is it Book 1 or is it Part 1?
Book 1.
Book 1.
Book 1 of 2 for Fellowship of the Ring.
Of Book 1.
Book 1 of 2 of Book 1.
Yes. Every one of these books is 2 parts. Book 1 and Book 2. And then the Two Towers is Book 3, Book 4, and the Return of the King is Book 5, Book 6.
That makes sense.
Good to know.
Were they released independently?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. Well, that was a big waste of time. Let's get into it.
So last episode, Frodo had just done his little disappearing trick in the bar, which didn't go so great. So Strider starts by meeting the hobbits in their parlor, and he offers them some information that will be very valuable to them, but for a price. And so the price is to be able to accompany them on their journey. They're not too keen on this idea, so Strider reveals that he knows Frodo's true identity. And then the innkeeper Butterbur delivers a letter from Gandalf. That's 3 months late. The letter says that they should leave the Shire by the end of July. It's now October. And that they should find someone named Strider because he will help them. Now, they don't believe necessarily that Strider is who he says he is, so they ask him to prove that he's the right person. And he finally calls himself Aragorn, son of Arathorn, which was in Gandalf's letter. So now they believe him and they trust him, and they decide that they will leave in the morning to go for a hill called Weathertop, where they should meet Gandalf. And finally, at the very end of the chapter, Merry shows up, who's been missing this whole time, and says that he was attacked by the Black Riders and saved by Nob. And they decide that they're going to sleep in this parlor instead of in their individual bedrooms to stay safe. And they will take off at sunrise.
I'm picturing this now. Mm-hmm. And they made little fake versions of themselves for the beds.
Frodo's had a mop head.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. All right, this is it. It's time for the chapter summary. Kick it off, buddy.
Chapter 11, A Knife in the Dark. This chapter starts with fear. We go back to Crick Hollow. It's that same night. Fredger has been feeling terrible all day. He's got this sense of mounting terror, and he doesn't know where it's coming from. It's just like a deep anxiety, and he's got no Wellbutrin. And so night falls, and he's like poking his head out the door, and he's watching the shadows under the trees, and one of the shadows moves, and he slams that door, and he runs for his life. Right out the back door, he's done. He knows at that very moment that if he does not flee, he will surely perish. Mm-hmm. And he's right, because 3 shadows detach themselves from the tree line. 3 riders on foot. They take the corners of the house, and one of them comes up to the front door and bangs on it and says, "Open in the name of Mordor," and then blows the door in. As they start to search the house, all of a sudden, horns start blowing in the distance, like hunting horns. It's the horns of Buckland. It's this like sort of alarm system that they have built in. They haven't used it in 100 years because that was when the river froze over and these great wolves came out of the woods and stuff. But for 100 years, Buckland has not had an existential crisis like this. So they're blowing horns in the dark, and it's this thing where it's like if you hear it, you're also supposed to blow your horn, and it spreads everything, and everybody gets ready and whatnot. And the riders, they know 2 things. 1, the ring is no longer at Crick Hollow. And 2, they're out. They leave, and one of the riders is thinking to himself, blow your little horns, have your fun. Sauron's coming for you. Don't worry. And they ride out of the Shire.
Thanks.
And Frodo awakes from a sudden dream where he's been hearing like a horn blow, and there's a wind and a darkness around a house, and he's having another of these like weird premonition dreams that kind of get sprinkled around. But he wakes up, and Strider is sitting in front of a brightly burning fire in the room. It's still, it's calm, it's quiet. He falls back asleep. He wakes up again. It's dawn. Strider says basically, "All right, let's go." So they go check the room where they were going to sleep. And it is tossed. Somebody forced open the windows and came in and would have murdered everyone in that room. And they're looking at this, and Strider's like, yeah, this is, we are leaving immediately. Butterbur comes in, he looks around, and he has a conniption. Oh my God, this happened in my place. How can nobody be safe in this? He's upset that somebody was going to be attacked. He feels responsible. And as he's talking this over, Strider's like, stop. We're leaving. Please go get our things ready. And guys, we're going to eat standing up. Like, breakfast is going to be a real quick affair. We're leaving right now. And so everybody's kind of like, okay. And a minute later, Butterbur comes back and he's like, apologies. All the horses are gone. All the ponies are gone. Somebody let them out last night. Nobody's ponies are here. Strider looks over and he says, okay, guys, how much are you prepared to carry right now? Because we're still going. We're still leaving. But you're going to carry all the food you need. And all these fat little hobbits are doing some math. And Pippin's like, I will carry as much as I have to. Sam's like, I will carry enough for 2. And Pippin's like, well, can we buy a pony? And it's like, yeah, the consensus is, yes, there's probably at least one pony they can buy in town. But it's going to take a while. Oh, so there is time for breakfast. Anyway, Butterbur comes back. He's sent Knob out to go scour for ponies. He comes back with bad news. Only one animal in all of town is available for sale. And it's Bill Ferny's dead-looking pony. Oh. And he wants 3 times what it's worth. And Butterbur's like, yeah, just buy it. I'll pay for it. This is my responsibility. Also, Mary, here's just a pocket of money for your ponies that are missing. And he's making good on everything. He's taking full responsibility for this. And really the only issue that anybody has is like, yeah, well, Bill Ferny's out to he's going to screw us. Is this thing going to die on us? and they're like, well, you know what? We have no choices. We have no options, whatever. And so they do. They buy the pony, and the pony is immediately fine with this. But speaking of ponies, we learn, there's a small digression. We learn what happens to the ponies. Tolkien takes a paragraph to tell us the life story of these 5 ponies. They get let out, and rather than going back to the inn where these asshole hobbits are, they go back to find Fatty Lumpkin in the Downs. They're going back to Tom Bombadil's place, the last happy place they've ever been. And they do. And so, and he's perfectly happy to have these ponies there. And then he hears that Butterbur actually paid a fair price for them. And so Tom Bombadil's got enough of a sense of justice that he says, back you go. You go back to Bree. And they do. And Tolkien says, yeah, they have to work a little harder in Bree, but they have a good life. Because all in all, they still didn't have to go to Mordor. Right. They didn't get to go to Rivendell, but they don't have to go to Mordor.
That's a win.
Right.
Yeah. And they lived happily ever after.
That's it. And
what were the pony names?
You recited
Swishtail, Lumpkin,
something nose,
White feet,
Snuffleupagus,
Snuffleupagus?
extra rations.
Whatever their names were, we bid them adieu.
Yep.
Oh, I have it. Sharp ears, wise nose, swishtail, bumpkin, white socks, all friends with Fatty Lumpkin.
Yep.
I made that last part up. I was not friends with, but I just, I had to continue the song.
And now they work for Bob and Knob. So anyway, so Butterbur gets these ponies back at the end of the day. So he paid a fair price. And Tolkien's super. He takes a moment to explain some basic economics that have no context. He's like, this pony is 12 silver pennies. It should only be worth 4. Okay. How many jewels is that? We don't know. He doesn't come back to it.
2,500 Schrute bucks.
Right.
Pretty much.
Well, how much is a Schrute buck?
It's a 2 Doge coins. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But so everybody makes out in the end because Butterbur is taking so much shit from everybody because he's like, guys, my bad. And he pays out for everybody's animals because everyone's animals are gone. This is an inn. This is a traveling place. People are going places. These animals are the transportation. It's like if you went to a hotel and somebody stole every car in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And everybody's giving him shit, including all the travelers from up south, until it becomes apparent that somebody's missing. It's the squinty-eyed southerner, Bill Ferny's friend. And suddenly everybody's like, oh, convenient. So you took up with this horse thief and brought him here, and suddenly they have nothing to say. They have nothing to say about the horses are missing. We don't even know this guy. We don't. Did you bring him? I didn't bring him. Who is he? I don't know. We don't know him. We don't know this guy. We don't know. What do you want? So this all takes about 3 hours, 4 hours maybe, and they were going to leave at dawn. That was the intention, right?
Yeah.
Now they leave. Now it's 10 a.m. In addition to Frodo's little song and dance magical escapades, they now have like the biggest like horse thief operation that Bree has ever seen. And now everyone in town is coming to the inn and is like gathered around, and it's a huge gaggle. And then it's like, oh, the magic hobbit and Strider are leaving, and they get this like crowd of people following them out of town. And like some of them are like yelling things, and some of them are yelling unkind things, and Strider's like staring people down in the crowd. And finally they come to the edge of town, and they get to Bill Ferny's house. And Bill Ferny's got the Southerner in his house peeping out. Like they see him, this squinty bastard. And then he has the balls to start shit talking the hobbits and Strider as they head out of town. Oh, Strider, you found some friends. Good for you, buddy. Hey, kids, you know who this is? It's not going to go well. And Sam's like, oh, yeah, well, you know what? Maybe you should hide your ugly face before something happens, and whips an apple into his face.
I couldn't believe they were heckling Strider.
Right.
It seems terrifying to look at.
Right? And then
It said in like the paragraph before that he stared at somebody and it like shut them down. He just like looked at them with like a terrifying look. And then I was like wondering like, okay, well, that's so weird that Bill Ferny's like,
Right. But who
Bill
is
Ferny
he?
has more balls than sense.
yeah.
Who is he in cahoots with? Though?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
who is
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
he's
whispering to in the dark? I mean, if he can look that in the faceless face, then
Yeah.
yeah, honestly, that's true. Like Bill Ferny there's something in there. It's just ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Ooh, that's a
um,
nice way of putting it.
And Sam whips an apple right into his face.
Oh,
Just like
Sam.
pitches it like a baseball, hits this guy in the face with an apple. Bam, done. And all Sam has to say is, waste of an apple. Like,
love it.
right?
That was so
Like this
good.
is like Sam's got these little moments where you're like, okay, like he's more than just the Labrador Retriever who wants to carry two people's bags all the time. They're finally on the road. And the plan is they're going to go to Weathertop because that's where they're going to meet Gandalf. And in order to do that, they got to maybe take some shortcuts. And Pippin has this line about, shortcuts don't work out so well. And Strider just throws back like, well, what does he say? My cuts always cut right or something?
My cut short or long, don't go wrong.
That's it.
Yo.
I love it.
Which is fun because you got to ask yourself, how long's he been sitting on that line?
By himself, thinking it up.
3 years ago on Weathertop.
No friends, just him in the wind.
Yeah.
My cuts don't go wrong. And so they go out for this, what is essentially a nice walk. Strider leads them one way, making everybody think they're going to, what is it, Archit? Archit, one of the 4 towns of Breland. But then he cuts off the road and heads out into the wilderness. And the hobbits are like looking around like it's been a day of travel, a nice day, a gorgeous walk, and they have seen no one. They've seen nothing, nothing bigger than a bird. And they're like, oh, he's probably good at this.
Yeah.
And like he's doubling back and like confusing the trail and all this stuff. And like the hobbits are looking at each other like, we could not have done this. We would be lost by now. Mm-hmm. What we get into next is this like this staccato, like machine gunned series of days. Because up until this point, it's been like a day a chapter. Mm-hmm. And now we're about to shoot through a whole week. And to me, the interesting thing is that like these are compressed, and instead of the hobbits having an existential crisis or nearly failing or dying, they just get through the day. And why is that? Probably Strider. Probably they found an adult. Day 1, they're out. Day 2, nice walk. Day 3, a swamp. They have to cut through a swamp. And now it starts with, it's called Midgewater Marsh.
Yes.
Which is basically just mosquito land. Along with some evil crickets that are called, what are they? The
Neeker Breakers.
Yeah, and they just make noise
Well, that's
all
what
night.
Sam calls them.
Yeah, so they just make this awful noise, no sleep, everybody's feet are wet all the time, and they're just being eaten alive by mosquitoes. And they're 2 days in this marsh. Frodo can't sleep. No one can sleep, but Frodo can't sleep. And just before dawn, he's looking out and he sees lightning on the horizon, like flashes of light, and Strider's watching it, and Frodo's like, what is that? Strider says, I don't know, but it's coming from Weathertop, and it looks like lightning, but striking from hilltop to hilltop, not in the sky.
They're at the bottom looking up at Weathertop?
They're miles away.
Okay.
They're still like probably a day or two off.
Okay.
They're just seeing flashes in the distance.
Like from the east.
So that light
way
is
on the
happening at
horizon.
Weathertop.
Way on the
Okay.
horizon.
And that's where they're
Yeah.
heading to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they've got days of walking yet.
Okay.
But Weathertop is this enormous landmark of a hill. That's why they're going there, because you can see everything for miles in every direction. And they wake up, and the issue that they have, again, with going to this giant landmark is, well, it's just flashing and there's some weird stuff, but like, what are we going to find when we get there? Are we going to find Gandalf? And Strider's just like, he shuts that down. He's like, there's very little hope of us finding Gandalf there.
Especially after that letter.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, hope is faint.
Yeah.
We are far more likely to find Black Riders. Because you know why? Because Weathertop is where you go if you want to watch the road. Because it's a huge hill and it can see in every direction.
Yes. Yes.
Plus, they've got spies everywhere. Birds. Birds are spies of the enemy. Apparently, birds are evil. I didn't know this.
Well, some birds.
Some birds.
Most birds, let's
Most
be
birds.
real.
Yeah, most birds. Birds are awful.
Birds
Chickens.
are dinosaurs.
Birds are dinosaurs. So with that fun little note, like, hey, nature is watching us and reporting our movements to the nightmare creatures that want to eat us. Day 6, they get to they change their approach. Because normally they were just going to walk straight across the open, but Strider says, we got to go a little bit to the left, and we're going to approach it from this ridge line that leads kind of like up to the top of this big hill. And so they're walking down this ridge line, and like there's like a hidden path at the bottom, and it looks kind of like deliberate. And they're all like, oh, wow, this is really nice. And like, what is all this, Strider? And Strider explains like, this used to be a line of fortifications in these hills back in the before time when the kingdom in the north was fighting the great enemy of Angmar. And this was the road that serviced the forts along this area. So yeah, it was designed for this purpose. It was designed to keep people hidden and protected. That's why we're using it. And he explains that like in the old tongue, Weathertop is called Amonsul, and it's the watchtower. It's where Elendil, like king of the Númenóreans, waited for Gil-Galad to come out of the west with his armies in the days of the last alliance against the great enemy. And he just drops this on the hobbits, and the hobbits are like, oh, cool. Man.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, literally, it's like, well, who's Gil-Galad? That sounds like an elf. Everybody's all excited. And
What's an army?
and Strider starts with like, well, Frodo knows all about this because, you know, he's kind of tied up in this. And I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
And so he starts to talk about it, and Frodo's like, yeah, well, there's a lot about it. And then they go to Mordor, and Strider just shuts that down. He's like, we're not talking about that right now. Do not speak that name. And we
That was
have
infuriating.
right, but we have this. That's the second time it's happened actually, because
is.
while they were coming up, they made a joke because they were talking about common rations or something like. Basically, what you eat on the march. They had to like, because again, this all comes back to food for hobbits. They only have one pony's worth of food now. So now everybody's eating a little less. So everybody feels like they're maybe losing a little weight. And Pippin cracks a joke about how, well, Frodo, looks like there's twice as much of you now. And Frodo's like, well, it feels like there's half as much. I feel like I'm wasting away. Like, if I'm not careful, I might turn into a wraith. And Strider just like, no, we're
the
not
fuck
up.
up.
Yeah, you shut up. You don't know what you're talking about.
Shut.
Yeah.
No.
And it's this really intense thing, and everybody's like, oh fuck, okay. And then it happens again with Mordor. And so like it's very clear that in Strider's world, in this greater world in Middle Earth, words have power. Like there's superstition there. And then like, but words having power is something that's baked into so much of the story that we've already seen, right? Tom Bombadil taught them a little song to summon Tom Bombadil.
And it worked.
Yeah, it worked. We know that the part of the world's creation thing was like a choir. Like it's all very crazy. But words have meaning. Songs are powerful. You can basically summon things into existence almost. It's not like magic, but it isn't not magic.
So
Just
it
this.
just like it summons a certain energy.
Yeah, and and here's the thing, right? Like we don't know that that's how it works, but we've already seen that it can work that way.
Right.
So for Strider to be like, no, shut up.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. You got to remember, he's alone most of the time. Like, there's nobody talking to him
He's
except
got no
himself.
manners whatsoever.
None, right?
He has none. He was like, Frodo, why don't you tell him a story? And Frodo was like, I only know this one part. And then he goes, shut the fuck up. And screams at him.
Yeah, it's like, just, oh.
Sorry.
So Strider maybe not the most friendly traveling companion, but he knows his shit because, again, we have just gone through like a whole week of nights, and the worst thing that's happened is mosquito bites. Whereas prior to this, it's been kind of eventful about every 4.5 hours. But they finally get to Weathertop. And on their way, climbing up this huge hill. And they find this like happy little dell, this like flat, nice area. It's grassy.
What is a dell?
It's kind of like, think like almost like if you were to find like a campsite on the side of the hill.
Sure. Yeah.
Like that's the image.
Okay.
Sam and Pippin chill there, and Strider, Frodo, and Merry go to the top. And they get up to the top. And Weathertop is this, it's got like kind of a flat at the very top. And it has a ring of collapsed stone because once upon a time it was this powerful fortress watchtower. It could see for miles in every direction. And this is a black, bleak, empty country, abandoned by all hope and all people. There's the only thing out here is this hill and the road that runs past it. Back in the day, when the northern kingdoms of men failed, this place was destroyed like everything else. So now it's this ruin. It's a kind of a ring of collapsed stone around the top of this hill, and with a little pile of stones in the middle, like a cairn, like almost like you would build for a body. Which is funny because one of the things that Strider said when he explained all this to the hobbits was like, no, guys, there's no barrow here. There is no barrow. That's not what this hill is for. It's a watchtower, blah, blah, blah. And then they get to the top and there's like, oh, a little pile of stones. Is there someone in there? like, there's also no grass. It's all scorched black inside the ring of stone across the entire hilltop. The three of them walk up to the top, and they're all looking around, and one of them notices that there's, I think it's Strider notices that one of the rocks on the cairn is kind of like clean where the rest aren't. So he grabs it and he flips it over, and somebody scratched runes into the back of it. And they're like, what's that? And it's like maybe a G and maybe 3. So like maybe Gandalf on October the 3rd, which was a couple of nights ago, which would have lined up with the lightning display, which meant, oh no, he was in danger. We're in danger. He would have left, if he felt safe enough to leave a better message, he would have. Strider looks around and he goes, we are on our own. We got to book it to Rivendell. That's all there is to it. Well, how far is that? Well, once you get past the Forsaken Inn, people stop counting miles. Well, where's that? Oh, like 4 days back. They are in the wilderness. They are off the map as far as most people are concerned. And it's going to be like 12 days. And Frodo is like standing, watching this empty wilderness. Like, it is a place forsaken by all people. And he's watching this, and he has this crushing realization of how homeless he is. He has nowhere to go. And he's having this like crushing revelation. And he looks at the road, and there's some black specks coming up the road. He looks over, and there's more black specks coming up the road from the other direction. And he's like, that doesn't look good. Strider comes out, nope, the enemy is here.
Everybody down.
Get down. And they all drop. And so they look and they watch and like, yep, that's 5 riders on the road headed straight for us. And so they scramble back down the hill, and they find that Sam and Pippin have been busily scouting out the dell looking for stuff. They found a little pile of firewood. They found a spring for water. It looks kind of nice. Also, it looks like some people might have been here. And Strider's like, stop. And he, it's like when a cop finds a scene and they want to do forensics and they want to look around, and they're like, you idiots, you've ruined everything. There's no evidence left. That's what happened, because they're just like stomping back and forth across the ground. Oh. They've ruined all the tracks. He's looking at it, he's like, I think this is probably a place where rangers would stop because they stack some firewood, and there's at least one person with big heavy boots here, maybe more. I can't. Fuck. All right. And Sam's like, what do you, stop. You said riders? So we're leaving, right? We're leaving because this is just a crappy little place on the side of a hill in the middle of nowhere. And Strider takes it, he says, yep, we are gonna, we definitely got to figure out what we're about to do. Mary's like, well, can riders even see? Why did we drop down? Why did we get low? Strider's like, well, I kind of fucked that one up. We shouldn't have been up there standing on the edge like that. But no, they cannot see. But the things they command can see.
Their horses can see.
Their horses can see. Their servants can see. Bill Ferny will tell them things. That kind of stuff. They see the world as shadows. The living cast shadows in a strange perception of their reality. So they can sort of sense the living. And the only thing that blocks that out is apparently the noonday sun, which is interesting. But also they have power at night. They can see and perceive things at night that no living thing can. That is when they are most powerful, which is why Gandalf put in his letter, do not travel at night. P.S. Don't fuck up. P.P.S. I'm going to turn Butterbur into a frog. But two other things that draw riders. The blood of all living things, which they hate and desire. And he throws away at the end. He's like, oh, and also the ring, that thing literally just pulls them. They hear it. It's a beacon in every way to them. They know where that is. They're coming to that. And Frodo's like,
Well, fuck.
yeah.
And then Strider says my favorite line. There is hope still.
There is hope still. What are you talking about? Well, they sit down for their little last supper. And it's like this like crappy little meal in an unfriendly place deserted by all the world. And they're just, okay, the riders are coming. Strider makes a point of telling them there's nowhere to run. They have horses. We don't. The land is flat. In addition to being these awful creatures of night, they hate fire. So we will make a fire and it will be our protection. There is no running for us. I don't know what his plan is, but build a fire and have a crappy little dinner appear to be two parts of it.
Even Sam is like, isn't that just like announcing where we are?
Yeah. Yeah. Sam is not about any part of this. They're sitting around this little fire, having their meager little meal, and they start asking, like, well, who was Gil-Galad? Like, what? Tell us some stories. And Aragorn starts giving them all these like deep lore cuts and tells these stories that are like these wild things. And they're all looking around going, how does he know these? Who is he? Like, what is this?
How old is this guy?
How old? Yeah, because all of his stories are ancient. Right? It's like you ask somebody for like, what did you used to do? And it's like, well, we had a hoop and a stick. And we used to throw rocks.
It's like the people that like nowadays, and they're like, remember this? You saw MASH, right? And you're like, from like 1981?
Netflix used to come on DVD.
Yeah, that was 49 years ago, man.
Or for me, Chris made me stop in 2019. I had the DVDs for so long.
Oh my God.
But they go to talk about Gil-Galad and Elendil again because they, you know, this tower, this place is an important piece of that history where they met and then they marched east towards the enemy. And then basically he shuts that down and goes, we're not talking about Mordor though. We ain't doing that. This is not the time for scary stories. But he says, you know what? We won't talk about the thing you asked me to talk about. Instead, we'll talk about this other thing.
Yeah.
Which is Tinuviel and Beren, which is this kind of this love story. And he says, it is a fair tale, though sad, as are all tales of Middle-earth. Mm-hmm. That's a wild statement because that gives you a huge window into Strider's like psychology. Like all the tales of the earth, of the world are sad. Mm-hmm. And these stories that he's telling and the tales of Tinuviel and Beren are foundational and amazing to the lore of Tolkien. Mm-hmm. And they're really, really cool. But I think the thing to take away from them right now is just that he kind of ties into like how old he might be and like how old his frame of reference for everything is. Because he's like, I'm going to tell you a tale from back beyond the myths of all things, back to the beginning. And then
the elder.
Yep, the elder days. And then he ties it directly to Elrond, whose house they're going to. Mm-hmm. So like it gives you this idea of the scale that the story is dealing with now. Night falls and the fire's bright and they're all just watching. And then the moon starts to rise and I think it's Mary is like, oh, the moon's rising. How long have we been telling stories for? And they look up at the moon rising over the hill and they see something at the top of the hill. Maybe it's just a big rock. It was probably just a rock. And Sam gets up and like goes to stretch his legs and they're just looking up at this rock. in the moonlight. Man, is it a rock? Is that what is that? Sam comes booking back to the fire. He's like, something is bad. Something's coming. Pippin runs up. He's like, yeah, this is not great. Like, but did you see anything? No, I didn't see anything, but I feel it in my heart.
I love that.
And Strider is like, everybody backs to the fire. Here's some torches. Here's some long sticks. This is it. Mm-hmm. And they sit and wait because it's nothing. It's just a bad feeling, right? And the minutes are stretching out until like Frodo is about to lose it. Like he just wants to scream. He's screwed up so tight and the terror is so palpable. And then up the hill at them, this like thing darker than night comes up at them. And it's these like holes in the night. It's darkness so dark. And it resolves itself into 3 or 4 figures. Frodo, his like parts of his brain are shutting down. He's so scared. He wants to run. There's nowhere to run to. And then underneath all of it comes this compulsion to put the ring on. Do it. He knows Gandalf said not to do it. He knows he just did it the other day and he fucked up. Mm-hmm. He knows why he should not, but he just feels like he should. He doesn't, it's not to escape. It's not to feel safe. It's just to put it on. And he fights it and he fights it and he fights it. And then he can't. And he pulls it out of his pocket and he slips the ring on. And he's staring at this darkness. He can see the riders. He can see the dark riders for what they actually are. They're men, ghostly, ancient, ghastly figures. Noble looking, but like just fucking horrible. Mm-hmm. Piercing eyes, gray robes, iron swords in their hands, full of malice and evil. And they come right for him. And the one in the center has like a crown. And it's coming up on him. It's got a sword and a knife. And Frodo has just enough presence of mind to pull out his own sword. This is a knife problem.
I know what to do.
Yeah. And this thing comes up to him and he just kind of like, and he gives this little scream and he stabs it in the foot, maybe. Because as he goes down, this thing comes down with a knife. And he feels this piercing, awful cold through his shoulder. And he passes out. And his like last conscious thought is just like, oh, I fucked up. And he takes the ring off. And the last thing he maybe sees is Aragorn come striding over him, swinging like a torch in either hand, screaming and yelling. And that's how the chapter ends.
Ugh. This chapter was freaking bonkers.
This chapter was freaking
much
long.
happened.
Yeah, it was very long.
This was like twice as long as all the other chapters we've read.
The things I had to gloss over and the stuff I had to just not talk about physically caused me pain.
Oh, I can't believe you didn't even bring up the Cinderellas.
I bring physical pain.
Well,
You did a great job.
Unfortunately, we have to talk about only the most important things. And I have 32 of the most important things here.
42.
Excuse me, 42. Thank you. I almost was 10 short.
Can't have that.
So the first
That's
thing,
for the only Sams.
first thing I want to jump right into is I felt like Fatty got redeemed a little bit.
Yeah.
I felt like Tolkien threw away this character once the hobbits had left him. I kind of was like, oh, well, what's the point? And I think I actually brought that up to you guys of being like, if Fredger's just sitting at the house waiting
To die.
like just waiting to die, this is a pointless character. There's no point to this. Fatty did have a point, and the point was to save Buckland from the riders.
Yeah.
And he was redeemed in a beautiful, dark, compelling intro to this chapter. I thought the way that the chapter started was freaking awesome.
It was
It was
amazing.
good.
Fear, fire, foes, awake.
Yeah.
I could like picture it being like in a movie, and like the camera's just tracking through the night with Fatty as he's running away from his house.
Just
Like
gone.
a one shot of him going through the house,
Yeah.
running through the woods. Yeah.
Which I think
the
that-
mile to the rest of the houses.
I
That's
think-
what I
dark.
was going to say. Like,
Yeah.
this guy named Fatty just ran a mile in like 10 minutes.
In his tiny little legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because they got left in the house with no food for a week.
And then imagine he shows up, right? He shows up absolutely out of breath, gassed, banging on your door.
He was like, "Riders, hurry,
Get
Well, he's really bad at keeping secrets because he's like, no, it's not me. I haven't got it.
Yeah.
Screams it through the night. I mean, can you blame him?
Yeah. And then it was so interesting to me, the final sort of awesomeness of this little section was that we were in the mind of the writer.
Yeah, we gained their
We
perspective.
did hear words from the writer when he says
Open in the name of Mordor.
Yeah,
open
and
in
a
the
couple
name
of other
Mordor.
times.
Go ahead, run away. We're like Sauron is going to come for you. Right. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, like this is bad.
That was really cool to just like switch the perspective in the middle of like a single sentence.
Yeah.
And then jump right back to like, and Fatty was on the loose. You know, like, I was like, oh my God.
I liked that the voice was thin and menacing.
Yeah.
You know, like something scary, you expect to have like a deep booming voice.
They say that the riders on their way out of town ride down the gate guards.
Yeah.
That
Just run 'em
heavily
over.
implies
They're
those
dead.
they're dead.
They're dead.
Oh,
We got dead
Yeah.
hobbits.
no. I was really blown away by the writing in this one. I was really impressed with how much he could convey in like half of a sentence. He wrote that a brooding threat was in the breathless night air.
Right.
Right? I was thinking about that like it gives you such a great feeling and picture of how it feels.
It's very specific.
And if I were to try to write that, it would take a couple sentences to get all that. And he just like knocks it out in a couple of words.
yeah.
I also liked that he described the Black Riders as like shades of night creeping across the ground.
Yeah.
Like they're so dark, all you can see is the night.
I like the throwaway line that essentially birds are evil. Like I
That
love
kind of
that.
confused me.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, because consider that they didn't see anyone, nothing. But you know what's everywhere? Birds. He talks
Yeah.
about birds all through this.
Yeah, the fact that birds could be spies and evil is really intimidating because they're everywhere.
yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about Butterbur and his bar.
Okay, I stand corrected. I thought he was struggling as the road was closed down and not as busy. At least it wasn't closed, but there wasn't as much traffic. He is fine. He's handing out piles of gold and
He's
buying
wealthy
ponies.
as shit.
Yeah, he's
Great.
doing okay.
I stand corrected. He is not a struggling business owner.
He's the only game in town.
yeah.
Yeah, so forget everything we said in the last episode
Yeah.
about like empathizing for the working man.
Yeah.
Screw Butterbur.
Poor Knob and Bob.
He is the 1%.
Pay Knob and Bob more. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
Did Bob and Knob have a union?
Yeah, I gotta say though, I was actually I was really relieved that Butterbur did the right thing and he paid for this barely dead pony. I immediately just pictured this like ailing, borderline disabled pony.
But like so happy to be away from Bill Ferny
Yeah.
too.
And when they
Yeah.
finally saw him, they were like, oh, it's not so bad.
So you guys, we all read the same thing. What would you name this pony?
Oh, geez.
Lazarus.
If Lazarus,
Okay, that wins. Nobody else needs
I don't know if you can top that. That's great. I also thought that when Bill Ferny, he's just described as like a weird smoking like asshole beyond like on the other side of like a stone wall, and it made me
Wait, I
think
thought
of
it was a southerner, the goblin-like guy. With
no,
the
no,
squinty
Southerners
eyes.
in the house in the window.
The state of his pony goes to show what a shitty guy he is.
Yes.
Like he starved his pony.
Yeah, and he was like Wilson from Home Improvement. On
Yeah.
the other side, he just was like looking at everyone like, "Ha, you suck."
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Sam whipped him in the face with an apple.
I was like, "Yeah, Sam,
That was
let's
excellent.
go." That's how you do it, man. I loved it.
I loved that Bob and Knob gave them gifts because the apples were gifts for Bob and Knob, and so was a
Yeah.
pipe, right? Apples for walking, a pipe for sitting.
Love
it.
that.
Bob and Knob have so much character for what they are.
And it's finally established that Bob is a hobbit because it's finally said.
Bob it,
Oh my God.
Knobbit and Bobbit.
Bobbit and
twist
Bobbit.
it, pull it.
Oh, don't.
Oh,
twist
the
it.
90s. The way that they leave Bree by just smacking Bill Ferny in the face with an apple is the perfect way to just begin this awesome road trip.
I like to imagine like the children cheered.
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense because there was a whole parade of people following them.
Right.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Which before we move on, real fast, that popped in my head that you said that. Have you guys ever stayed in a bed and breakfast?
I don't think so.
Like a proper, not an Airbnb, like a proper, like an old lady's like, welcome to my house. Everyone watches people leave. Because at a bed and breakfast, you're staying with strangers. And you hear people. And if you remember, even on our honeymoon, we were the first to arrive to a bed and breakfast. So when you get there and it's just you, it's like, it's awesome. It's you meet the host and you're like, this is our place. This is so beautiful. This is amazing. Let's get ready to go out for dinner. You have any good recommendations, like Bridget or whatever the lady's name is? And all of a sudden you hear other foreigners pull up on their travels.
Little foreigners.
Yeah. And you just immediately go, where are they coming from? Where are they going? You know, you just start thinking that in the United States, you don't care at all. You're like, what?
Because it's all
they're
like,
going somewhere.
It's all like Radissons and shit. Like, you know?
Yeah.
But it was so funny.
Especially after all the events that just
That's exactly what
transpired.
happens in real life. You sort of curiosity gets the best of you, and you sort of are like looking out the window, going,
so
"Are
like-
they gone yet, or where are they going, and what are they doing?"
So I think that's like a context thing, right?
Yeah.
Because when you go to a hotel, it's just a big building full of anonymous rooms,
Right.
and everyone is going to be a stranger. You're not going to interact with them. At a bed and breakfast
Or an inn.
or an inn, it's like you have way more interaction with these people. It's way cozier. It's way smaller. So suddenly, people are at a scale that you can become invested in.
And I have to say another thing I really loved about the crowd scene, and this just shows Tolkien's genius, is that he did this really sly thing where he talks about the people of Bree and of Staddle, which we've already heard about Staddle, the oldest hobbits, etc. And then he brings up Coombe and Archit for the first time. And then a couple pages later, when they start their journey, they go through and they talk about both those places.
Yeah.
Such a genius way to establish the geography of the area without just breaking it down in a boring method, and just like subtly slid it in there. So when Strider is talking about these places, we know that it goes Bree, then Staddle, then Coombe, then Archit. I thought that was just so brilliant. And writers today don't do that.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it considering how much time he spends describing other things.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
I
like there's-
appreciate that he did that
He'll
cleverly.
be frugal with some things
Yeah.
to save time and stuff for when he wants
Good
to
job.
tell you a story.
Like a 2.5-page poem.
Exactly.
Which
Technically has nothing to do with the plot.
No, it has everything to do with the plot
It
because
does.
this story wouldn't exist without that story.
Yes.
I told you that story so I could tell you this story.
I love
Yeah, I
that.
get that.
The thing I want to talk about real fast is that, like, and I mentioned it before, the time scale for chapters per day and stuff changes wildly, right? Like, we just did a whole week in like 17 pages.
It's also 17 years in between the first and second. The time periods are crazy.
There's a lot going on. But like, once they leave Hobbiton, it's almost a chapter a day. It is every day is a new peril. New mistakes lead to new problems, lead to them being sad.
Meeting adults.
Yeah. Every day is a catastrophe for them, right? Like, it is Frodo's birthday, and then it's ring wraiths, and then it's run, and then it's walk, and then it's run, and then it's ring wraiths, and there's water and bullshit and Tom Bombadil, and a tree almost kills them, and the forest is angry with them, and the barrow downs, and a barrow, and then they finally get to where they're almost maybe going.
It's almost like it's an adventure.
And the elves? I forgot the elves.
Oh, and there's elves.
Oh my God.
Like, there's-
Gildor and Gloria.
And the
man.
fox.
Oh, and the fox that gives no fucks.
He's like, hobbits. And then just walks along.
Cool. Sleeping outside. Bad choices.
Disgusting.
But one of the things I loved about this too is like stories, right? Because it's telling a story. Tolkien is dropping, and these are things that pained me to not mention in our summary. He's dropping so much background. Sauron wasn't always the bad guy. He
was number
worked for
2.
someone for a long
I
time.
was curious about that.
Yeah.
I don't think they've mentioned that before, have they?
No.
Not really. They reference it a little tiny bit, but yeah, Sauron was a number 2 guy for the longest time. And then in a war that literally destroyed half of Middle-earth, like it literally sank beneath the sea, they got rid of Sauron's boss.
So we don't know who that is yet?
Not yet.
Not really.
Fun. That'll be fun.
Oh, so much fucking happens. Oh my God. Like the Silmarils.
The Silmarils. I forgot that was just dropped in there as a throwaway.
Like the Silmarillion is like Tolkien's version of like the Book of Genesis.
Yeah.
It's about these gems. It's
Is it like what happens
It's very dry.
thousands of years
Thousands of
ago?
years. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a novel. It's not a story. For everyone who's going to read it, and I think you all should, it's not a narrative story. It's not a novel. It is a history. It reads more like a textbook about a topic, and the topic is the creation of the world that Lord of the Rings takes place in.
But speaking of other texts, you know, one of the last like songs that they are sung by Aragorn is of the story of Beren and Luthien, which Tolkien wrote for his wife. It's a love story, like the only love story in the series. And the song is literally like just a summary of a 200-page book, and it's awesome. And I highly suggest, and I highly suggest everyone reading it because I haven't read all the texts. Even I couldn't get through them when I was into it. But that was one that was beloved. Like, it's so good. And this song is such a great way to boil down this epic journey. And it makes me want to reread it.
It left me wanting more.
Interesting.
When I was reading the first song that gets sung, with,
The story of Gil-Galad?
Sam. Yeah, Sam recites the story of Gil-Galad. I was trying to come up with like a melody for the song because, you know, we do that sometimes. And like it kept reminding me of something. And finally it hit me. It has the exact cadence and syllables of Castle on a Cloud from
Really?
Les Mis.
No.
Let's
It
hear it. Come on.
does.
Come on. We got to
All
hear
right,
it.
so I am neither a soprano nor a 10-year-old girl, so prepare yourselves.
I'll do it after you if you want.
All right, yeah, you can all join in. Gil-Galad was an elven king. Of him the harpers sadly sing. The last
does.
whose realm was fair and free, between the mountains and the sea.
Dude, that's
was
exactly
beautiful.
it.
That's better than
Hell
what I
yeah.
heard.
That's cool. I can't believe you
The
thought of
movies
that.
ruined me. You know, like that one song that Aragorn sings in Elvish.
You just ruined that for him forever.
You're broken.
He's done. His brain just
He's
shorted.
never made that connection. It all comes back to Les Mis, Pat. We've been trying to tell you this.
Always. Everything does.
All right, now do Master of the House.
Oh my god. Well, that's the next song.
I was gonna, like if you can match one of these up to Master of the House, I
my
will never
God,
say
it almost-
another word
Bartleman's
again.
like, master of the house.
What kind of could work though for that?
Oh man.
If you look at
But,
it,
like-
it does.
But you know, it's funny though because that's wild to me. Because where I got that tune from was like the 1990s book on tape version.
So I wanted to talk about Gil-Galad.
Yeah, what? Gil-Galad was an elven king. Of him the harpers
Starlight?
sadly sing. The last whose realm was fair and free between the mountains and the sea. His sword was long, his lance was keen. His shining helm afar was seen. The last whose realm... No.
you were so close.
Dude, that was great.
No, dude,
Wait, finish it. Come on.
All right, hold on. The last whose realm was fair and free between the mountains and the sea. His sword was long, his lance was keen, his shining helm afar was seen. The countless stars of heaven's field were mirrored in his silver shield. But long ago he rode away, and where he dwelleth none can say. For into darkness fell his star, in Mordor where the shadows are.
Holy shit.
Yo.
Nice job.
I've known that song for like 20 years.
That's crazy.
Wow.
I can't believe you just fucking pulled that out.
It's like one of my shower songs.
Bath time. That is amazing.
Well, I'm so glad that you said that because, well, you kind of said everything I wanted to say, but that's okay. No, I'm just kidding. I just want to say that I thought it was really interesting that Gil-Galad came up. Now, I am a noob, a bit of a noob to the Tolkien universe. I know some of the characters, and I say some, basically meaning half of the Fellowship. I don't really know some of the other characters that are in the movies. And obviously, I don't know any of the characters from the books that are not main characters. But I am watching Rings of Power. And Rings of Power so far, I don't know any of this stuff in Rings of Power. I don't know where it's coming from or what books it's coming from. It's just like a new story to me. And Rings of Power brought in Tom Bombadil. which was fascinating because it was the week that we read Tom Bombadil's
Oh, that's awesome.
chapter.
That's amazing.
And
It was cool how that worked out.
you were sitting there freaking out on the couch, and I didn't know anything about it. And this guy goes, "I'm Tom," and I thought to myself, "What a dumb name." His name's Tom.
And then the next night we read the
And
chapter.
then the next time it was chapter, and it was like old Tom, and I was like, "Oh shit, that was Tom! That was Tom!" And then
That's so fun.
yeah, and then the same thing happened. Again, I couldn't. If you were to say what's the name of the elf king in Rings of Power, I would be like, dude, I don't know. I don't know anybody's name in the show besides Elrond. That's the only person's name I even
well,
remember.
and my favorite.
And yeah, Galadriel's in it, but I don't know anybody else's name in the entire show. When I'm reading in the chapter that Gil-Galad comes up and he's the Elven King, it was like this rush back to my head. Oh, I know who that is.
Right.
It's not just some name in a fairy tale like Baron or Tenuvial or whatever.
Yeah, Baron into Newville.
Like, that's great. It's a cute story. It means literally nothing to me.
I can't believe he just did
names
that.
tomorrow.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah, that's great. Were they the first people in history to fall in love? No, don't care.
They were the first people, the first mortals to come back from death, and the only elf to be like truly dead.
Yes.
How did they come back from death? Never mind.
You have to read it.
This feels like it's going to be a long story.
Doesn't matter.
Short answer: the power of love.
Okay, good, perfect.
Huey
Feels
Lewis.
very Doctor Who.
Or very Greek mythology.
I want to go around real quick just because I want to have fun for us because I think this will be fun. I don't know if it's gonna be good for the show. Okay, but all right.
Super.
So, quick thing: we're gonna make bets
Oh God.
and we're gonna bid, and the bid is how many hobbits can you name?
Oh no.
I'll say I can name at least 4.
I feel like you guys maybe have a leg up here. A little
I'm gonna
advantage.
go 8.
12.
Oh, we didn't establish what the stakes are.
5.
You gotta come on. You gotta. Those are
I'm not
rookie
going
numbers.
12.
You can't name 12 hobbits.
It might take a while.
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
How many did you say, Chris?
12.
12. Okay, a dozen hobbits. Laura, do you think you can do more than 12?
Sure.
I mean, I know I can do more than 8. I just want to win.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
No, no,
I'll
no.
say 13 because that's how bidding works.
Okay. All right. So then,
Will anybody go above 13?
Going once. What's the stake here?
I don't know.
$25.
$25? Well, what happens if you bet and you're wrong?
$25.
Then you owe $25
To who?
to the podcast.
Okay, so we'll figure it out. It's like a Christmas giveaway.
That means
you can have the blood
You
money?
bring the water bottles next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Let's do it.
All right. Ready?
All right.
Yeah.
You have 13.
Yeah.
You're leading.
So I have to start. Fuck.
Wait. So
Well, no,
wait.
let's start with the.
What happened? Once she starts, we can't begin.
Right. What?
Yeah.
No. It's only one person's going to get to go because like we're going to get all her answers off of
Yeah.
that.
Right.
You can't repeat.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can't repeat? You're gonna have to repeat.
Yeah.
All
There's,
right,
there's
sure, if you
not
wanna
there's not
repeat.
30 hobbits.
If I can't make it, then somebody else has to
Well,
start
if she
over.
can't make it, then it's done.
Kinda. Yeah.
Right? It's a
Yeah.
one-time thing.
Well, the thing is, if she can get to less than 12, then you can pop off the top of that.
14.
Okay. Chris wants to do it.
All right.
Okay.
Who
Fucking
did
go.
the lowest number? I guess me with 8.
Yeah. No, I said like 6 or
Okay,
some shit. just to
ready?
get
You
it
said
rolling.
4.
All right. I'm gonna.
I don't even think we've met 14.
There you go. Come on.
have,
Come on.
actually.
Okay,
we
ready?
absolutely have. We've met a whole gross.
Here we go.
Okay.
Frodo,
Yep.
Drogo,
Nice.
Bilbo,
Uh-huh.
Sam,
Uh-huh.
Gaffer,
What's his real name?
Ham. Hamwise.
No.
Close.
No.
Hamfast.
There you
Hamfast.
go.
There we are.
I said
Okay.
thank you because you're about to lose.
So how many do we have? 5?
You're up to 5.
Okay. Merry,
Uh-huh.
Pippin,
Yep.
Hob,
No.
Hob.
Knob. One of them's a hobbit. Knob?
Knob.
Yeah.
What are their names?
One's Knob,
It's not Hob.
No, Knob is right. You're fine.
but not the Hob.
Not Hob.
Hob's not a hobbit.
Bob.
There you go.
There it is. Knob and Bob.
Knob and Bob.
Knob Bob.
Okay.
Otho.
Ooh.
Lobelia.
Okay.
How many we got?
We are up to 11.
How many did I say I was going to do?
14.
14?
Yeah, you fucked up.
I was
kid.
out of my mind.
I know them.
Okay, so
This is hell for me. I'm like, dance. Let me answer. Let me answer.
Frodo's mother passed away, and she had a name, and her name was
There's such an obvious one.
Lily Vivian. Oh, I don't know if I have too many more.
Well, no, you
I'm
need
about to
3
burst.
many more.
What was
actually
Otho?
explode.
Lotho.
There you go.
There we are.
Um,
Good job. You're 12. 2 more.
Old Took.
I'll give it to you.
Right?
There was a fancier name, but that was his like nickname. So
Yeah, the old guy. The guy who founded Buckland was interesting. Johnny Buck,
No.
Yep.
Jerry Buck,
Johnny Appleseed.
Buckheimer,
Keep you're so
Jerry
close.
Bruckheimer.
You're so close.
Jingleheimer Schmidt.
13 out of 14.
Ah, come on, give me one more.
Okay, think of who Bilbo left the gifts for.
Yeah. Got any names?
All I had was Lobelia.
The person with the waste paper basket.
I don't know.
That
any
was
of their
really
names.
old. It's killing me.
Maggot, Farmer Maggot.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, just say a flower. It'll probably be right.
Right. No, there it is.
I did it.
That's 14.
I'm
Oh my
impressed.
god, I'm so nervous about that.
Okay.
Also, the
let's
person I was trying to give you was
stress
Dora. There's also Esmeralda. I mean, God.
And Rosie.
Yeah.
Well, see, the difference here is that I stepped up and you didn't.
Well, I mean, also, it's more fun for you two to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
This is torture for you. This is fun for us.
I put my brain to work.
That was
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Though.
I feel like that's it for me. I'm done.
Yeah.
My
brain is
contribution to
shot.
life has officially
You know what you deserve?
I hit the what?
A treat.
Oh, it's treat time. What kind of treat we got today?
We got something real punny.
Real punny?
I'm so excited.
I can't wait.
I have no idea.
Let's rock and roll.
Let's do it. This week's food for thought is a special treat I like to call a knife in the dark chocolate mousse.
That's so stupid. So, what did you think was going to happen? Because you plunged a steak knife into a bowl of pudding. And you were like, you had this look on your face like, yes. And it's just like slurped over.
Dude, that was hilarious.
That was so
Super
good.
impressed, but
The knife was like, no. They're slowly tilting.
it was supposed to be a little thicker.
Wow. All right,
That
so what
was
do we got?
hilarious.
We got a little pudding?
Yeah, chocolate
Chocolate
mousse.
mousse.
What do you mean a little? Dude, that is like, how much is that? That's like
It's a
quarts.
lot.
It's several quarts.
It's a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna have
I
to.
love chocolate mousse.
I'm going to eat this whole thing on the way home.
Fantastic.
Guys,
How about your giant spoon?
So what kind of mousse is in this pudding?
Take one guess.
American
I
American
just
mousse
said
or
it.
Canadian?
dead one.
Thank you.
I don't
Well,
think
I
there's an
appreciate-
American mousse.
Puns on puns.
Yeah.
Puns on puns,
I
baby.
got it. All
This
right.
is my little spoon.
Tiny spoons for
I
tiny
love
cup of
this.
mousse.
This is
Oh my god,
a
tiny
joke.
spoons.
Is this a spoon for ants?
Oh my god. My friend Cece.
All right, well,
loves these
enjoy your
spoons.
knife in the dark
Thank
chocolate
you.
mousse.
Dude, I also for the treat night tonight, I wore a shirt I just got
I noticed.
for Corpelese tomato pie in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, and it has a copyright infringement version of a Eagles logo on it, holding bread.
Oh, I didn't notice the bread.
That is a legally distinct spy of the enemy.
They
Yes.
also had the Philly fanatic with a tomato pie over his head, and I was looking at him and I was like, "This is so illegal! Like, you guys are selling like counterfeit merchandise and just putting your logos in with the professional sports team logos."
This is so good. Laura.
So anyway,
Thank
of
you.
course, I bought one.
Good. You got to support your local businesses.
Yeah. Ooh.
Are they sponsoring us?
This week is not sponsored by Corpelese, although I wish they would.
That'd be nice. I will work for food.
I spent entirely too much money there.
The food's
You
good.
can't even taste the crushed up mousse.
I know, right? You would never know.
Why is it called mousse?
Because it's French.
Mousse?
No, just mousse.
In French, they say mousse. Mm-hmm. What does it mean?
I haven't the faintest
I
idea.
prefer this. It's so light.
Oh, it's
and
amazing.
airy.
Like, you guys know this. I don't think anybody else knows this.
I do know
or
this,
anybody's
yes.
listening.
Yeah.
Laura makes wedding cakes sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that I'm
Occasionally.
not like 400 pounds is a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually get a little angry at you quite often about that.
I am
When
the
we go on our little tipsy food trips together
Yeah, yeah.
and we eat everything in sight, and then the next day I've gained 4 pounds and you've lost half.
Yep.
That's
I
infuriating. to
sweat it
me.
out.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's a perfect place to wrap it up for this week. This is officially a wrap on chapter 11, which was A Knife in the Dark. We got chapter 12 coming up next episode, which is called
Flight to the Ford.
Flight to the Ford. It's about a car or something. Who knows? We'll see.
It's the last chapter in book 1.
It's the end of book 1?
It's the end of book
Does that mean
one.
we're halfway through Fellowship?
That does?
All right. I'm pretty pumped about that. You guys should be too.
Fucking rad.
Thank you so much for listening, for following along, and for sharing our shit. We've been watching and seeing everybody interacting and commenting, and it's been so cool. This has been one hell of an episode, one good time with friends and family, and lots of moose. Is it when you have multiple moose, does it become mice?
No.
Moussaka.
Chocolate mice?
You can't, look how much is left. You can't do that.
I'm not
I'm
having
going to
it
have
anymore.
to eat all of that.
Go right ahead, baby. That's
You'll
all
put on
you.
0 pounds.
I'm going to throw up in the car.
Why don't we do
mostly
what we did
air.
last
At least
time?
you'll then have a bowl.
where we stuff your mouth until you can't breathe.
We did that last time?
Right.
Damn, woman. Cover your mouth.
Like the toddler.
I was leaning that way.
My nephew one time turned away from his little.
Well, that's a wrap on chapter 11. I'll see you next week with chapter 12. Someone named Ford. I'm going to have COVID.
But he turned away from his bowl of cereal 90 degrees to cough directly into my open mouth. Because I was telling him a story.
Why are you saying this?
If you're still with us,
I'm
God bless
crying
you.
right now. Bye.